Who is that? Javier? Oh, Javier, sorry.
And
It's not in the script.
yeah.
Did you realize you got a promotion?
Keeping everybody away. Anyways, thank you for you, as Dr. Bertini said, you diehards
Yeah.
for being here. Last session of an extremely informative and successful FAV Summit. But, you know, we saved a lot of the best for last. And it's kind of a tease for next year. You're going to hear from 4 really, really good speakers. They have a lot of incredible information. They set the stage for a lot of what Florida is doing. I'm going to introduce them. I'm going to give them real quick bios, and then I'm going to ask Secretary Byron to go first. You know, our first speaker is going to be Tom Byron. He is the Assistant Secretary for Strategic Development, as Nick stated. He's been in that position since 2016. Prior to that, he's held multiple positions at the Florida Department of Transportation since 1995. Our second speaker is going to be Paul Satchfield. He is the Program Management Administrator for Florida's Turnpike Enterprise, and he runs SunTrax. And he's going to give us an overview of SunTrax Phase 2. Third up to bat is going to be Dr. Robert Bertini. He is the Executive Director of the Center for Urban Transportation Research, Cutter, at the University of South Florida. The amount of research that he is doing, that the university is doing, you've seen a lot of it. I think Dr. Bertini is going to speak to us of what's coming up. And then last but not least, the best we save for last, Emily Brown. Emily is with the Central Florida Expressway Authority. She's been there since 2017. She's the director of Strategic Communications and Economic Development, Public Affairs for Central Florida. Her background is in communications and economic development. She's going to share with us next year's conference. So I'm going to stay quiet. I promise that we'll get out of here early. I promise that. And I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Secretary Byron.
Thank you, sir. And first off, too bad it's just to the diehards and not to everybody here who was here yesterday. But I've got to say thanks, Javier, to you, to the MDX team, to the Cutter team that has done a phenomenal job of. This has been a record AV Summit. The bar is very high. But the good thing about this is those are fun bars to try to exceed. So thank you very much, Javier, for your team, and USF and Cutter, your team, for a great conference. So to jump right in this, so we do get out of here early. When it comes to ACES for Florida DOT, obviously our game starts with the governor. You had heard him yesterday. The vision is leverage technology for safety and mobility, basically. He'll say it in slightly different terms, but that's about what it boils down to. Follow that with the secretary, and his guidance to us is he uses the term move the needle. So in the end, what DOT is looking to do with leveraging this technology is move the needle. Less fatalities on the road, less crashes, more efficient, more effective movement of people and goods. That's where, bottom line, that's what DOT is looking for when it comes to ACES and leveraging some of this stuff with ACES. Luckily for us, we've been doing this for a few years already, so we have kind of a jump on things. For those that attended the session yesterday, the FDOT CAV initiatives, you saw some of the project details. Just as kind of a point of reference for those that were in there, that's probably less than half of what we've got going in the state. If you've got interest in project level details, I'm not going to go into those here or today. It's on our traffic operations websites. You can dig into stuff that we're doing, that our partners are doing across the state if you want to get into project level details. In terms, getting back to kind of a higher level ACES update, the message I do want to pass, kind of setting the stage, is we have over the last few years been doing some pretty deliberate research that I think is about positioning us to the point where it's becoming, mainstream's probably too to mainstream, but it's getting close to the point where we are getting towards mainstream. I'll put it that way. We have spent several $1 million, and again, it's been deliberate work with not only USF and Qatar, but other universities to try to set the stage for, okay, when this stuff comes and as it unfolds, how do we leverage it as best as we can leverage it to move that needle on safety and mobility? We've spent, in addition to that research, probably to date on the order of 50 million-ish on putting infrastructure out there, and that means the connected piece, not the asphalt and concrete, but the connected emerging technology type of stuff, put a fair bit out there already. In this year's work program process, the way the DOT works is our work program is a 5-year chunk of time, a 5-year plan. Kevin talked about yesterday, the Secretary talked about in the opening, this year's is a $10 billion budget for, I don't know, 6th or 7th or 5th year, whatever it is. But so we plan in those 5 years. This year is the first year in that 5-year work program. Over 5 years, we've got about, right now, 125 million-ish that's going to go to continuing to move us more towards mainstream, to continue to put us in a position where when all the vehicles out there, or some of the vehicles, any of the vehicles out there are also connected, that we can start making the efforts, doing the things, making the changes to again, move that needle. From my perspective, there are a lot of states, certainly a lot of states, municipalities, folks will do a lot of talking the talk. In one of the sessions yesterday morning, they talked about kind of the hype cycle. I think when it comes to state agencies, a lot of them are transportation agencies. There's still a lot of hype out there. What I would say, Florida's perspective is we are very aggressively trying to talk the walk, and basically that boils down to show me the money, make the investment in the research, make the investment in this equipment, make the investment in reaching out to the private sector. That really is driving this train with the technology. So when the time comes that this truly is indeed mainstream, both in infrastructure and the vehicles, that we can move the needle. That's been our approach to how this goes. The past several AV summits that I've been involved with, and I will say it again at this one, for the private sector out there, OEMs, the tier 1 folks, if you're data crunchers, if you got sensors and all that kind of stuff, with the way the private sector is really driving this bus, not so much DOT driving this bus, but the private sector is the one that's really going to ultimately is going to change how DOT does business, change how you drive your vehicles, change how we move around. So from DOT's perspective, your success is our success. So again, from DOT's perspective, it has been and will continue to be, we are looking for ways to make you successful, because we are going to get the gains in safety and mobility from your successes. So we are willing to support those. And like we do every year, to the private sector out there, again, OEMs, tier 1s, you folks who are making the magic, if you want to partner with us and help us with the universities, make those gains, save lives, move people and goods more efficiently, more effectively, we want to talk. With that, I'll call that the DOT ACES update. And basically, Florida's ready to play with technology. We want to leverage it. We want to use it. We want to make it real.
Thank you, Tom. It's interesting to listen to Tom. Tom doesn't, he was chief engineer. This isn't a one-off for the Florida Department of Transportation. The way I viewed it from the beginning, when FAV came about, a lot of these programs, a lot of these things usually are one-offs, right? Because you've got your work program. Tom's chief engineer was a chief engineer. Tom knows how to integrate this into the work program. This is serious. Paul, talk to us a little bit about SunTrax.
All right. Let's see if we can make all this stuff work. Looking in the back. They say brevity is the soul of wit. Unfortunately for you folks, my wife has told me on numerous occasions I am not funny. So sit back and relax enjoy this 143 slide PowerPoint I have for you this afternoon.
That was funny.
Yeah, see, did somebody get that? I need to send that to my wife. Anyway, I'm going to talk to you about SunTrax a little bit. This is our mission. It's to accelerate the future of transportation. Obviously, SunTrax, most of you have heard of it. It is a facility that we're building in Auburndale, Florida, about halfway between Orlando and Tampa. What you see on that slide there, everything in white is phase 1. That is all complete. We completed that in May. And then the infield is phase 2, and that's the fun CAV stuff that we're working on. And I'll talk more about that in the next few minutes. Believe me, I don't have 143 slides. So this is our design of our infield. And what you want to pay attention to on this slide is the design principles. We wanted varied environments with diverse scenarios and highly reconfigurable. We didn't want to put a lot of permanent stuff in the ground or any more than we had to that would then limit us in the future. This technology is moving very quickly. We could have designed something and been building it and it would have already been obsolete. So as you go through this, you'll see how we worked some of those principles into the design of the facility, and we think we've achieved our goal when we started out. Now, if this movie plays, we're gonna all be happy. All right. We have a narrated version of this that's not working, so you're gonna have to listen to me for a few minutes. So this is SunTrax. There's one way in, one way out. It's underneath the oval on the south end of the facility. As you come in and fly up, the two buildings that you see right there are the two public kind of buildings at the facility. The first one is the arrival building with the curved roof, and the other building is an operations building where the actual staff who are performing the work at the facility will be there. We do have conference space here, so maybe at some point in a couple of years we'll have this conference at SunTrax. There's a full-service cafeteria, office space, classroom space in this building, and then as I said in the back is what we call the operations building. As we're flying up here, these three buildings, the first one is a workshop, maintenance facility for the track, and the next two are garage space. So right now we have 20 garage bays. They are leasable individually or in whatever group you want them to be leased in. This is obviously for the users to come in. They're fully outfitted. They'll have lifts. There's behind the glass there's office space. There's a meeting space as well. So anything a user needs to do to work on their vehicle, their sensors, they can do in that facility. As we drive out, that's the fueling area. There's electric and gas will be available there. These two spots here, this is a low friction surface. Again, AV or a human-driven car has to be able to handle different levels of friction on the roadway. So that surface is there. That next track over is a noise, vibration, harshness track. Those you find in typically any proving ground. This is just an example of an automated vehicle with a brake test. That one was successful. As we continue to move out, we're going to fly over to, this is one of our loop tracks. So here you can simulate ingress and egress from a highway. You see the human driver cuts off the AV. What does the AV do? So you can get up to highway speeds right there. There's one on the other side of the track as well. This is a technology pad. It's 20 acres of asphalt. This was a very highly requested feature when we went out and did our research. So this is where you're going to do vehicle in the loop testing. Obviously, those buildings aren't there. The car is traveling like the buildings are there, so you can pump a lot of scenarios into your vehicle on that pad in Central Florida, and the car might think it's in New York City. This is an observation tower. The tower will be there. It won't be quite this opulent. This was a little bit of a marketing video, but this is a dual-purpose tower, one for track safety, but two for people to come out and observe their tests as well. As we fly down, this is phase 3, so this will come along a few years later. This is a weather chamber, for lack of a better term. So we all know the scientific methods. You want to be able to repeat your tests the same way over and over. You can do that here, so we will be able to make it rain, lightning, wind, fog. All of the weather scenarios that you run into in Florida will be able to replicate in this chamber. As you come out of the chamber here, this is a pickup drop-off area, and you would find this at an airport, outside of a hotel. It's a high target-rich environment, I like to refer to it. You have cars slowing down, cars speeding up, pedestrians. Airports typically won't let you shut them down to run your AV tests, so we built a facility. You see the shipping containers here. This is what I was talking about, being flexible and reconfigurable. At one point, we were going to build facades of buildings, but when you get into that and you get into the Florida Building Code with the hurricanes, they became very expensive very quickly. So we pivoted to shipping containers, which we will hang facades off of glass or wood, whatever a user wants, we'll be able to replicate here. This is an urban environment, so this is one spot of the facility that there will be permanent structures. There will be some light poles and some mast arms for signals, but this is still very reconfigurable, and you'll see as this video spins around how we can change using the shipping containers and make an urban canyon. So we stack them up. We've been told we can go up to 9 high. That's probably the exact limit. 6 or 7 is more realistic, but boom, we made a canyon if you need it. This is a signal loss chamber that you would find. It's, again, just there for if you're using GPS. What happens when you don't have GPS? What does the car do? We can also replicate that using shipping containers. This is part of our oval. This is part of phase 1 that is constructed, so you see a truck platoon going by right there. Horizontal and vertical geometry track, another very much requested item when we were doing our research. Lots of different grade variations and different radius of your corners to challenge your sensors and your cameras, etc. on that track. So that is the infield of SunTrax. That is phase 2. And now I'll go into just a few of these sectors in a little bit more detail. I'll talk about the oval. Obviously, it's already constructed, 2¼ miles long, so it's bigger than Homestead, not as big as Daytona, but I think it would be the 4th or 5th biggest track if NASCAR ran on this, which they will not. 5 lanes wide, designed 70 miles an hour, used Florida design manual, so the pavement out here, the lane widths, everything is the exact same that you'd find on any highway in Florida. The 2 straightaways can be operated independently of each other. They're about 1 mile long each. We have 4 toll gantries out there already. The Turnpike has already begun testing tolls technology out there. We've had some interest from some other companies that are going to try to get into that third-party toll collecting business. So it's out there, it's operating, it's running. If you want a tour, give me a call. We can get you out there. The technology pad, spoke a little bit about this. 20 acres of paved and open space. Very much multiple use. You can use, like I said, the vehicle in the loop testing. You can do you can use jersey barriers, stripes, cones, whatever scenario that a user could potentially need can be recreated on this pad. The geometry track, again, undulating geometry, irregular grade changes, limited sight distance. We heard from a lot of these manufacturers 2 or 3 years ago when we were out doing our research that those were the challenges at the time that these sensors were facing is, one of them in particular, which I won't name, their car was going up a hill, it kept stopping and they couldn't figure out why, and eventually through their research it was because it saw the hill as an obstacle and it was forcing the car to stop. The pickup and drop-off area, again, replicate a multimodal station, outside of an airport, a hotel, anything of that nature. That lane striping and everything is very adjustable there. You've got your curbside scenarios, again, where you have the people getting out of a car, people getting into a car, cars slowing down, cars speeding up. So it's very, like I said, it's a target-rich environment right there. So the Turnpike, we're very good at building roads. We're very good at collecting tolls. We have never operated a connected automated vehicle test facility before, so we are going to have a third-party operator run this for us. And you can see they're going to perform every aspect of that's needed at this facility. They will operate it, they will maintain it, they will do the marketing, and they're going to provide an entire suite of services to the users. So you may have company A that comes out there that just wants to rent the asphalt. Well, company B may want to come out there and say, I want to rent the asphalt, I want to rent a garage, I want you to set up a test, I want you to run the test, I want you to collect the data, and I want you to provide a report. So that entire spectrum will be provided by the operator of this facility. Where we're at? Well, we began the design in 2015 of phase 1. Phase 1 construction began in June of 17, and not long after that we began design of the infield. As I said, phase 1 was completed May of this year. We've completed the design of the infield. The contract has been let and awarded, and construction of the infield will begin January 6th of 2020, and hopefully it will be done in late 2021. And so your takeaways. Obviously, we're all at this conference. We know what CAVs can provide to us in the future when they are fully implemented. Safety relief, congestion relief, and obviously it's advancing the technology. SunTrax is the only purpose-built CAV test facility in the Southeast. We anticipate not just national but international users at this facility, and it hopefully will act as an economic benefit to the entire state of Florida, not just the local Central Florida area. And you can see that's just one of many numbers that we can call out, but by 2025, $345 billion is going to be dedicated to CAV research and development. We hope we can get a big piece of that pie. And with that, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I don't think anybody can deny that this is a jewel in the state of Florida. This is not going to need a lot of marketing. I think they're going to have to turn people away because everyone's going to want to be in Central Florida at SunTrax. Dr. Bertini,
Yes,
you're up.
thank you. Thanks very much, Javier. Thanks everyone for being here. So what is a researcher doing here in the closing session? What's the role of research? I think the first thing is that we support the implementation of innovative solutions. So we work closely with transportation agencies like the DOT, like the Turnpike, cities, counties, transit agencies, and we help them implement. We also can do evaluations and proofs of concept. We also can be the keepers of data, right? We care about the data long after the project is completed. And then the last thing that I think is extremely important is we help develop the next generation of practitioners. We prepare the students who are going to go graduate and work in this field. So we want our students to be ready to work in the ACES arena. So I'm just going to share a little bit about what's happening in Florida from a research perspective. I moved to Florida a little over 3 years ago, and if you look around the universities that we really have a dream team within the state of Florida, and it's really exciting, and it's an honor to be a part of the research ecosystem here in the state. If you look at some national initiatives, for example, the last number I had was there are about 84 connected vehicle projects happening around the country. And the US DOT, of course, is supporting a lot of those initiatives, and we're actively coordinating with particularly the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration on a lot of our work here in the state. If you just look at Florida, as Tom just mentioned, on the FDOT website, there are about 30 different projects in planning, design, or operations. And obviously, we've heard about SunTrax, and we've seen the proliferation of a lot of other innovations with electric vehicles, electric charging stations, shared bikes, e-scooters, and so on. So there's certainly a lot happening here in Florida across the entire ACES spectrum. And as you already know, because you're here at this conference, there are a lot of public and private initiatives. The private sector is investing a lot. Public agencies are all at the table, whether you're talking about the planning organizations with their travel demand models or with the expressway authorities, as well as cities across the state. There are many, many initiatives going on. We just did an inventory. I'm going to skip those. But just to say that there are about 12 universities in Florida, and everyone is doing something. So probably the most well-known program is the I-Street program at the University of Florida that involves a number of arterials. It involves an automated shuttle system, quite a number of roadside units and in-vehicle units. So we at USF were very inspired by what was happening in Gainesville. So I was able to bring some of the USF leadership to Gainesville a few months ago, and Tom Byron was generously also present there, trying to introduce the idea of doing something on our campus. So we've been inspired by the work at the University of Florida, also at FSU and FAMU and the University of North Florida, to bring a test bed concept to our campus in Tampa. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. We're also lucky here in the state because we have 3 university transportation centers that are funded by the US DOT, 2 focused on congestion, one at the University of Florida and one at USF, as well as a UTC focused on freight transportation at Florida Atlantic University. So as I mentioned, in addition to being part of this statewide ecosystem in ACES research, at USF we've been doing some things as well as I mentioned. The concept of our campus as a test bed, we're a 1 by 1.5 mile urban, so 1.5 square mile urban setting, urban campus within the city of Tampa. So we're starting to think more visually about demonstrating to our students and faculty and visitors that transportation technology is something that's being studied and being implemented on our campus. So we've done an AV shuttle demo, we've developed a connected bicycle, we're working on connecting our bus system, our emergency vehicles, and our traffic signals into a CAV environment, as well as a wayfinding system for the campus. Probably some of you have met my colleague, Professor Xiaopeng Li, and his students who they populate the CATS lab, which is part of Qatar at USF. And Professor Li has developed 2 CAVs. They're Lincoln MKZ vehicles. Hopefully some of you had the chance to ride in one on the parking garage. If you didn't, you're welcome to visit us next time you're in Tampa. We'd be happy to give you a tour. This is just a little demo of a V2I communications between the vehicle and the traffic signal. So this is something that Professor Li has developed with his students in a relatively short amount of time. And so we know that Professor David Kahn at Florida Atlantic is in the process of acquiring some autonomous vehicles. So the idea is with the autonomous vehicle at the University of Florida, the 2 that we have at USF, and the 3 or 4 that will be at FAU, we want to be ready to conduct experiments on sun tracks once phase 2 opens. So we think it's very important to work together across the different campuses. We do have at USF access to 5 different test tracks, including the sun tracks facility. We are partnering with Busch Gardens. There's a piece of an old World War II runway that we have access to near our campus, a 10-acre former airfield, as well as a shopping mall that gives us lots of different kinds of environments with a low-speed perimeter road, as well as two areas, including the top of a parking structure. So right near our campus, we have access to lots of facilities in order to conduct our experiments. So I just want to briefly give credit to Joe Wagner of the Tampa-Hillsborough Expressway Authority. He actually has suggested several years ago forming something called an ACES exchange. And so with the support of the Florida DOT and many others, we are now working on developing a Florida ACES roadmap. And so I'm going to skip forward to that. So the idea is that we're going to be creating several things. The first one is a virtual, we call it a virtual water cooler. So a way that all of the researchers in the ACES arena can collaborate. So some sort of online platform that will allow us to share lessons learned, to share data, to leverage the individual experiments that might be going on in different cities in Florida so that we can benefit from the way that they all roll up together. So sharing data and trying to leave a legacy of the lessons learned for our research. A lot of times at a conference, we're going to talk about the successes from our research projects, but sometimes there are, what's the opposite of a success? A nice way of saying that. There are challenges sometimes that you can really learn from, and so we want to find a safe and kind of private forum for researchers to share lessons learned so that we can lift up the whole state together. As I mentioned, this idea that we're part of an ecosystem is extremely important to us. We also plan to develop a more publicly visible platform that will be essentially a viewer of all the activities that are going on in the ACES arena, where it will be easy for those conducting research in the ACES areas to upload information about their projects in sort of a virtual environment that can be searched, and that somebody proposing a new project can go to that activity viewer and see what's been going on. We're inspired by several things. The FIRE system, which is a former Florida DOT crash database, had a really nice graphical interface that allowed you to search in different shapes across the state. So we're working on developing this viewer, and just to say shortly, we're inspired by different databases that exist, and so we'll develop a platform that will allow that to happen in the near future. Those are just some examples. We're also interested in connecting with you, potential stakeholders who are interested in connecting with researchers across the automated, connected, electric, and shared environment. So if you would like to go to our website at the qatar.usf.edu/FLACES, that's Florida, Automated, Connected, Electric, and Shared, there's a form where you can sign up, and we'll be in touch with you about upcoming events related to this project. So we hope to hear from you. And I just want to thank you for this opportunity. We're going to be excited to participate in this event next year in Orlando, and hopefully you'll get to see our vehicles there and meet some of our students. And I would also like to add my thanks to the Cutter team led by Dennis Heinbaugh, Stephanie Lewis, Austin Scipioria, Alex Kolpakov, and Jana Huss, who were here working behind the scenes for this event, as well as to thank Joe Wagner and Sue Charzan from Thea, as well as my colleagues here on the podium. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. So you heard Dr. Bertini say that next year's conference is going to be in
Orlando.
Orlando, Orlando, I love you, Orlando, SeaWorld.
That works. Sue, it worked. Anyways, I kind of butchered Emily's introduction, so I owe her a proper introduction. Emily is the manager of public affairs at the Central Florida Expressway Authority, and her unique experience in strategic communications and economic development place her in a position where this is her passion. And I'm going to let her come up and give us a little preview of next year's conference. So, Emily.
Thank you for everybody who stayed till literally the very, very end. You are troopers and probably have later flights because you didn't try to get out before rush hour. Am I right? Nope. Well, I'm driving, so I'll make this short and sweet. Video pretty much tells it all, so we're going to go ahead and start. And with that, I hope we will see each and one of you in this room and the 700 of you who were no longer in this room to Orlando in November of 2020 to join us and continue to advance the needle in this space, in this technology space for the state of Florida, and continue to show the rest of the world what we already know, that Florida is the best place in the United States to test this technology, commercialize it, and bring it to market. And we're excited to highlight the assets that Central Florida has to offer in that space as well. We look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you so much for attending this year's conference.
Thank you. So, does anybody have any burning question for the three gentlemen here that will keep us from beating traffic out of Miami? Good, very good. Anyways, it's a good crowd. It's a good, smart crowd. Anyways, you know, I'm going to wrap this up real brief. And I got to thank a few people, and I got to thank Senator Brandis. Senator Brandis has been a true supporter, not only of transportation and of ACES, he's been a true supporter of me, of the expressway authorities, primarily here in Miami, and I owe him a lot. And I want to thank him. I know he had to leave. I want to thank Melissa, his aide, for getting him everywhere he needs to be and keeping him, you know, on schedule. Grayson with SAE, thank you for putting together a lot of the sessions and helping with the sessions. Dr. Bertini, Cutter, CFX, Thea, for your support in putting together all the presentations and basically forming the planning committee. You know, Emily from CFX, Brian Ramirez and Sue Charzan, who is actually the godmother of FAV. Very few people think of it. Joe is not the godfather. It's Sue, who's the true behind the scenes. Thank you, truly, Sue. Thank you for everything you've done. Dennis, you're an absolute professional in putting this and doing this. Your passion for the subject matter, your passion for doing it right, your passion for Qatar, unsurmounted. So thank you very much, Dennis, for what you've done. Stephanie Lewis, unsung hero, work behind the scenes. But I also got to thank my team. And my team, you know, for the last year, it hasn't been the easiest year for MDX, but we were not going to let this conference down. This is important to us, and I got to thank Juan Toledo. You heard him this morning. Anna Velasquez, where's Anna? Anna, outstanding job. Claudio de Aferia. All of you guys, thank you so much for helping put this together. The marketing team at Playbook, Public Relations, Sally and Sarah, where are you guys? Are you still here? If I'm not sure, thank you very much for all the work you've done. The production team. Last year, Sue told me, you got to get this production team. You got to meet them. They're outstanding. Jathor, Nick, Darren, Ozzy, outstanding job. The coffee was outstanding. Really good. Cisco and Siemens, special shout out to you for sponsoring our breaks and for participating. It's people like you that made this a true success. All of our sponsors, you've seen them rolling. All of our exhibitors, our students. That was incredible, the poster session. I'm not going to butcher the name. Juan already said Hakuna Matata. Hakuna Matata. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. For those of you that didn't catch a flight out, spend a little bit of money here in Miami. It's easy to get over to the beach. It's easy Uber drive. So thank you again from the bottom of our heart for attending. Please have a safe journey back home.
Mr. 305, flow rider, lunch.